Peppa Pig is a cartoon filled with lessons and jokes about eating or not eating vegetables. But did you know that if you pause the episodes of the Pink Pig, you'll see incredibly strange and funny things?
No, George!
This happened when I was watching the episode where Peppa's best friend, Susie, goes to the pig family's house to play with Peppa. When she arrives, the two start having fun and sticking their tongues out at each other as a way of playing. And if we pause the scene or play it in slow motion, we'll notice how both the sheep's and the pig's tongues alternate between a normal tongue and a completely wavy tongue that looks like a pink snack. This makes the scene quite funny, since the cartoon is very simple and the characters are basically several straight lines that don't move much. So this is definitely a rare scene in Peppa Pig. But it's not the only time we see interesting things when we pause the episodes of the cartoon. In the episode Potty Training, we see that George ends up accidentally doing number 2 while Peppa and Susie are playing in the room. And when the girls notice the bad smell, Peppa makes a disgusted face. If we pause the scene at the right moment, we'll see the pig making probably the biggest mouth a pig has ever made in the cartoon. But honestly, I think if I were her, I would have done the same thing. It's just funny to see Peppa with such a big mouth. We also found something that we can say is at least very strange happening in the episode where Dr. Brown Bear is teaching the children how to handle someone in an emergency situation. The problem is that as soon as he tells the children to watch where they're walking, he trips over a ball and rolls down a hill, going through a thorny bush. If we pause the scene at the very beginning, we'll see that when Dr. Bear trips, his head turns upside down and for a brief moment is almost the same size as the doctor's body. And as you can see, Dr. Bear is quite round and big, so it's almost like his head grew a lot and then went back to normal. But that's not all. When the character finally stops falling, he hits an apple tree and several apples fall on his head. At this moment, we notice that Dr. Bear is completely cross-eyed, looking in 2 different directions, so dizzy after falling down the hill in such a painful way. Surely this was one of the funniest cross-eyed scenes in Peppa Pig.
Are you saying I'm stupid?
Some scenes in Peppa are not actually funny. Instead, they serve to clear up doubts that fans of the cartoon have. For example, one of the big possibilities that many have always raised is the fact that Peppa and all the characters in the series might have 4 eyes, since we always see their faces from the side with 2 eyes. However, once and for all, in the Peppa Pig movie special called Peppa Pig Golden Boots, we see the character doing a full 360-degree spin, and if you pause the scene at the right moment, you can, for the first time in history, see what the back of the pig's head looks like. At this moment, we can see that she does not have 4 eyes, as this would be visible when she spins around, which once and for all completely unravels the mystery of the number of eyes of the characters in the cartoon. In the episode where Daddy Pig teaches the children how to make a mud puddle and then how the same principle applies to the concrete used in the playground, we see something quite interesting happening. When Peppa's dad steps into the hole full of cement, all the children remain smiling, just like Madame Gazelle. However, if we pause the scene at the right moment, we'll notice that the only one making a different face is Mr. Bull. When I paused this scene, I wondered, why did he make a different face from all the other characters? All this happens because Mr. Bull, with all his experience, knew that Daddy Pig, despite being an engineer, was making a huge mistake, and that concrete would harden, and he wouldn't be able to get out later, exactly as it ends up happening. And the face that Daddy Pig makes is really funny, especially since it's clear that he's very embarrassed. After all, what kind of engineer gets stuck in concrete, right? I know you love to play, so check out this awesome Sonic toy for you to have fun with. Click the link in the first pinned comment and take it home. When Madame Gazelle takes the children to the zoo, she gets 2 big scares during the visit. The first is when she discovers that the local staff member is a lion. But the second time, we can see how the character was really frightened because when we pause the scene, we can see that not only are the children's teacher's eyes wide open, but her mouth with her teeth showing and down makes it clear how she thought Mrs. Crocodile was going to attack her at that very moment. And I laughed a lot at both of Madame Gazelle's scares, but definitely at the second one I laughed even more. In the episode Pedro's Cough, I found 2 scenes that are not at all common in Peppa Pig. The first happens when Dr. Brown Bear arrives at the school and asks the pig's pony friend to show what his cough is like. And at that moment, Pedro coughs right in the doctor's face and sticks out his tongue, showing that ponies can indeed have very long tongues. When we pause the scene, it looks like the character is actually sticking his tongue out at the doctor like a naughty child, don't you think? But the scene has nothing to do with that, as Pedro is a good boy. Next, when the doctor is already saying goodbye to the class, both Susie and Danny start coughing just like their friend, proving that the boy's cough was indeed contagious. And at this moment, we can see how the faces of Madame Gazelle's 2 students are completely different from their classmates, as they have completely wavy mouths and half-closed eyes, like when the characters in the Peppa cartoon are suspicious. The The combination of the characters' eyes and mouths was very funny, but I felt a little sorry because the kids ended up getting sick. Pretty much what happens to George when he decides not to use his umbrella hat and ends up catching a cold. We can see that in the scene just before Peppa's little brother sneezes, his eyes are very wide open and his mouth is completely wavy. Moreover, to show that George was really sick, the animators made him a little less pink to differentiate him from the other characters. This time, George should have used his umbrella hat, so we wouldn't have seen him make that sick face. But the coolest scene was yet to come. When the pig doubts that her brother was really sick, he just lets out a big sneeze in his older sister's face. And if we pause at the right moment, we can see all the snot droplets flying towards Peppa. I don't know if it's right, but I felt like she deserved it for thinking George was faking it. If you really love cartoons, we have some incredible news for you. We've launched a new quiz channel. In it, we'll test our knowledge about our favorite cartoons and movies like Bluey, Peppa Pig, and many others. It will be a journey full of challenges, laughter, and lots of fun with Wavy. Don't waste any time. Subscribe now at the link in the description or point your camera at the QR code on the screen and start playing. I'll see you there. In this same episode, we still find one of the rarest scenes in the cartoon, which is a version of someone from the pig family with a somewhat shrunken snout. Since George was sick, every time he inhaled while sleeping, his snout would pull back, looking like it was squished and the poor boy had fallen face first on the ground. Honestly, I don't remember seeing this in any other episode of Peppa. As we mentioned before, some scenes in Peppa serve to prove some theories. For example, in the episode Police Station, where the pig family goes to the police to locate George's lost dinosaur, at the very beginning, we see Mr. Fox calmly walking in front of the place carrying several umbrellas under his arm, which by itself is already very strange. After all, who walks around with several umbrellas? Were those umbrellas really his? Right after in the scene, we see that he looks at the police station with a very suspicious face, and we can see that on the bulletin board is a kind of composite sketch made by the victims in the city who have already had something stolen. And as far as we all know, Freddy Fox's family is the only one that fits that description. So this look from Mr. Fox is nothing more than the confirmation that many thought that the character is indeed a thief in the cartoon. My question is, if these policemen are so good, how come they never discovered that Freddy's dad is the same person in the composite sketch? That's really a mystery.
Maybe it doesn't work on donkeys.
In the episode of the children's party where they are raising money to repair the school roof, we see that Susie is doing face painting in exchange for some coins. Mrs. Rabbit then appears and asks if she could paint a mountain leopard. And if you pause at the right moment, you'll notice that the face Mrs. Rabbit makes at that moment is very funny. It looks like she wants to laugh while being sleepy. But at the same time, Susie replies no, that she can only draw fruits, which by itself already makes the sign a kind of false advertising. But the funniest thing is Mrs. Rabbit's face, as she opens her eyes wide and becomes serious, which makes me wonder, did she regret paying the coin and then only asking if she could paint the face of a leopard? And when she heard the no, changed her mind but was embarrassed to take the money back? Honestly, I think that's what happened. But right after, she turns into a very funny plum. And if you like cartoons and animated movies, we're leaving 2 really cool videos for you to watch right now if you want. Click on one of the 2 and stay with us having fun. You will definitely like it.